Quick question. Does anybody else feel like the GOP has targeted and identified straight black men as the weakest emotional link in our community? No, seriously, think about it. Before you get your boxers in a bunch, I'm not saying this as a black woman. I'm not saying this as a matter of opinion. I am saying it as someone who has been looking at social trends a lot lately, looking at political trends, and also looking at Hitler's playbook. Because if we're keeping it a stack, it's impossible to fully understand or appreciate how dangerous Trump is without looking at Hitler, who clearly is his blueprint. And when I look at all three of these things, it becomes shockingly clear to me as an educated hypothesis that the GOP has intentionally been targeting straight black men for years now under our noses. And honestly, if you think about it, it makes total sense, objectively and non-emotionally speaking, right? Because for centuries now, white supremacy has intentionally been separating black men from black women in a ploy to weaken their families, right? And the thought was, if we take away the black men due to chattel slavery, due to the school to prison pipeline, due to bullshit marijuana laws, if we keep separating these women from their men, they're going to become weaker. But instead of becoming weaker, black women were like a resistant virus in the face of white supremacy, where instead of becoming compromised, we just kept mutating into stronger strains of ourselves, right? Instead of dying off, black women just kept on getting stronger and stronger and more resistant. And white supremacy probably said to itself, fuck, we were trying to make these bitches weak. Not only are they not weak, they've gotten stronger, even though their men are gone. So now white supremacists are stuck with these resistant, strong-backed black women who refuse to be broken, right? Even though their men are being put away in prisons and in fields. Then they start thinking, okay, so the only group that is even marginally as destructive to our plans as black women is gay people, right? And gay men in particular know what it's like to bristle against the intersection of sexism and racism, because a lot of gay men, homophobia, the basis of homophobia is to punish gay black men for being too close to being women, right? It's seen as feminine and therefore weak to be gay. And that's how we get brothers like James Baldwin. That's how we get people like Bayard Rustin, the architect of the civil rights movement. So now the GOP is probably looking at itself like, okay, the revolution is being led by these black women who are showing up to constantly save the Democratic Party, because while their men were in prison, they were all going to college and became the quickest and most educated group in the country. And right behind them are these snooty gay boys who stand on the shoulders of James Baldwin, who not only have access to masculinity, but also know how to talk to and engage with femininity. A man who can talk to a woman who happens to be black, that sounds dangerous. We are in a space where little gay black boys who grew up idolizing their matriarchs and brilliant aunties who were keeping down the household while their fathers, for systemic reasons, were elsewhere. And so black women and gay men and the queer community as a whole, these two groups are already in cahoots, according to white supremacy. So who's the only group left? Straight black men. Because in the same way that the system took these men out of our communities, when they shipped them back into our communities, they were emotionally broken. They were spiritually broken. They were financially and psychologically broken. And they came back to all these queer people and all these women who had made strides without them. And imagine what that must have felt like for all those black men, right? Your daughters and queer family members and wives and sisters are all speaking a language that you don't speak. They're all getting an education that you didn't get. And you are feeling like, I'm a man. I should be leading, and yet I'm struggling to even follow behind them. So misogyny is telling you you can't talk about your feelings, while the world is telling you you've been left behind. Of course, straight black men are resentful. The system is what disenfranchised you. The system is what pulled you apart from the rest of your community so that you felt left behind. The system is what told you that you didn't deserve to have feelings and that you couldn't open up about your lived experiences and frustrations. And then when you were sitting there feeling like shit, feeling like less of a man, the system offered you a semblance of acceptance in return for leaving us behind. Conservatism is trying to get black men to do to us as the queer community, as the female community, as the progressive community. It's trying to get you to do to us what they've already done to you. Of course, they can offer you a solution when they're the ones who created the problem. And you know what movie makes me think of this entire thing? Like almost like a brilliant analogy of what's happening between black men and straight black men and the rest of our community. The movie Mean Girls. Every single movie you ever see about a group of popular mean girls there's always this group of friends where all four of them are seen as nobodies and losers, right? And then the mean girls figure out who's the weakest, thirstiest person in the clique. Who's the person who needs to win the most? And they take that one girl out of the group. They groom her. And the girl is told that she has to become a mean girl herself by throwing the rest of her friends under the bus. Right? And how do those movies always end? The mean girl who's been groomed to join the devil figures out that she was never really accepted to begin with, that she was always a token, and now she goes crying back to her old friends and her old community to have her back because she was never one of them. That's black men right now. And when you watch these movies, you always recognize that the girl who wanted so bad to be accepted by the collective was actually stronger when she stood with her own. And I think when you think about what's happened since Obama won, right? Obama's the perfect example. He was a straight black man who was able to topple over the system. And the system realized we can't let another Obama happen. We can't let another strong, intelligent black man who's married to a black woman and who cares about the black community. They are the only thing that can really defeat us from that group. And now we have to figure out how to once again tear black men away from their community. This time, not through chattel slavery, not through the prison system, but through psychological warfare. I'm starting to realize that the whole algorithm around gender wars, I don't think gender wars is the algorithm. I think the algorithm that was designed by white men was doing this on purpose. The algorithm told you as a black man, the only way to win or be joined by white men is to date white women. The algorithm told you black women are the bane of your existence. Even though they're more educated than you and could teach you something, nah, they're the enemy. Don't learn shit from them. Fuck a book, okay? In fact, fuck a book and fuck a white bitch, okay? The algorithm told them, hey, gay men, they are enemies too because they're pussies, even though that they also have something to teach you about a different side of masculinity. Although they're getting therapy at the rates that you need to be getting therapy. Nah, fuck gay men, right? Fuck therapy. Despite the fact that there's a loneliness epidemic and black men are the quickest group of people killing themselves in this country. Nah, fuck that, because that's gay to get therapy. The algorithm that's run by people like Elon Musk, a lot of things that we're blaming on, well, whatever you watch, you get more of. No, I think they intentionally divided us through social media, and that's part of how we got here. And so now in 2025, we're in the position where the mental slave that was targeted the most by the system has now been invited into Master's house as a pawn and is cradling Master to his bosom as his savior, even though he's actually his captor. It's giving Django Unchained. If you've ever seen that movie, that infamous scene when the house Negro, Samuel L. Jackson, is cradling his master, Leonardo DiCaprio, to his bosom because those field slaves have the audacity to storm the building. History keeps repeating itself if we don't educate ourselves. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. None of this is new. Like I said when I started this video, the reason why I'm making these connections is not because I'm a fortune teller. It's because I'm studying history with the hopes that we stop repeating it. All right, y'all, I gotta go. Because, this one was heavy. Love y'all.